When I was 20, I did two things that made me famous in our circles. The first was that, despite weighing nearly 300 pounds, I managed to date Victoria Sterling, the coldest, most unattainable heiress in New York high society. The second was refusing to marry her, changing my name, and fleeing the country to become her unspoken one that got away. For the next 5 years, Victoria lived in a secluded convent upstate, shutting herself away from the world. Just when everyone thought she was going to take vows, she suddenly announced her engagement. The commotion was so massive that even I, far away in San Francisco, heard about it. It was proof enough of how much she valued her new fiancé. I booked a red-eye flight back to New York that same night. When people saw me, their first reaction was shock at my transformation. I was half the man I used to be. Then came the sighs. "Julian, you came back too late." Even Victoria, when she saw me, was cold and distant. "When you left me behind all those years ago, did you ever think you'd regret it 5 years later?" "Regret?" I shook my head. "I don't regret it. I was already married with a child." I didn't return to the country for Victoria Sterling. When the Chinese-American news outlets in San Francisco were buzzing about her wedding, I received a call from my father. "We have news about your mother's belongings." That was why I bought the ticket. When the plane landed in New York, a heavy rain was falling. I dragged my suitcase to the parking garage, quickly finding the car, sent to pick me up based on the license plate my father had texted. But the moment I opened the door, my breath hitched. Victoria was sitting in the back seat, wearing a perfectly tailored dress, her aura as cold and regal as it was 5 years ago. I instinctively thought I had the wrong car, and went to close the door, but she spoke first, her tone indifferent. "You're not wrong. I came to pick up Caleb. Your father asked me to pick you up on the way." Hearing the name Caleb, I froze. Caleb Vance was the product of my father's affair, only 6 months younger than me. I looked at Victoria's cold profile, belatedly realizing that her fiancé and Caleb were the same person. Seeing my reaction, Victoria raised an eyebrow, her tone dripping with undisguised mockery. "My engagement was barely announced before you rushed back. You clearly care to death, yet you pretend not to know who I'm marrying. Julian, aren't you tired of acting?" I sat in the passenger seat. Hearing her words, my hand paused on the seatbelt. "I came back to handle some business, not for you." She scoffed as if she'd heard a joke. "If you're going to make up excuses, at least put some effort into it. It's true, and in the States, I'm all ready." The words "married with a child" didn't make it out before a male voice interrupted from nearby. "Vicky, come help me for a sec. This bag is too heavy." Victoria got out of the car. Through the side mirror, I watched her take Caleb's suitcase, after which he familiarly threw himself into her arms. Caleb said something with a smile, his gaze sweeping over the car, locking eyes with me in the mirror before quickly looking away. They got in the back seat. Caleb exaggeratedly kissed Victoria on the cheek, then pretended to just notice me, his tone full of surprise. "Bro, Dad said you might be coming back soon." I didn't believe it, but it's actually true. "You've lost so much weight, I almost didn't recognize you. Was life abroad that hard these past few years? Why don't you stay this time? Vicky and I are getting married. You can come to the wedding." His voice trailed off, his face suddenly turning pale. "Bro, you coming back? You aren't here to crash the wedding, are you?" I was speechless. I was about to speak when Victoria cut in. "Don't worry, I won't let anyone disturb our wedding." She reached out and squeezed Caleb's hand, her movement gentle. Caleb, however, kept the pained look on his face. "But everyone says my brother is the one that got away. Now that he's back, do I have to step aside? There's no one that got away. That was all fake. Don't overthink it. My heart only holds you." As she said this, Victoria glanced imperceptibly at me, but I had already closed my eyes to rest. The long flight had left my body aching, and the atmosphere between them didn't allow for my intrusion. I might as well sleep. The air in the car seemed to freeze for a moment before Victoria coldly ordered the driver drive. As the car moved through the curtain of rain, I listened to the sound against the window. My consciousness was just fading when Caleb woke me up. "Bro, the designer just called. Vicky's gown is ready. We're going for a fitting now. Do you want to come?" I opened my eyes, the fatigue still lingering. "No, I want to go to the estate first." Victoria, hearing this, wore a look of knowing cynicism. Caleb spoke the words for her. "Bro doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to see Vicky in a wedding dress standing next to me, right?" Both of them seemed certain I had returned for Victoria. I massaged my temples, a headache forming, and explained again. "I returned because I have matters to attend to. It has nothing to do with your wedding." The next second, the car screeched to a halt by the curb. Victoria's tone was sharp. "Since it has nothing to do with us, get out. We're not going the same way anymore." Caleb timely handed over an umbrella. A a smirk playing on his lips. I didn't say another word. I opened the door and got out. Once I had my luggage, the car sped off, splashing me with roadside puddle water. The umbrella was broken. I tried for ages but couldn't open it. I was soaked in seconds. The rain was torrential, and there were no cabs. I pathetically found a spot to take shelter and call my friend Gordon to come pick me up. While waiting, I checked my phone and saw a voice message from my wife, Sienna, sent an hour ago. I clicked play, and my daughter's voice rang out. "Daddy, Mommy says my visa is almost ready. Just 10 more days, and Lily can go back to America to find Daddy with Mommy." Hearing my daughter's sweet little voice, an unconscious smile spread across my face. It was late night in San Francisco. Sienna and Lily were likely asleep, so I didn't video call. I sent a gentle voice note back. Exiting the chat with Sienna, I casually opened my social feed. There was a post from Caleb, "Brother is back." It should be a happy occasion, but for some reason, I feel a little sad. The attached photo was of my profile sleeping in the car. The comments section had exploded. "OMG, Julian Vance is back? He's so skinny now. Coming back at this time. Is he planning to object? He can't do anything. Vicky has moved on. No matter how much he's changed, he's too late. Poor Caleb. You treat Julian like a brother, but he comes back to steal your fiancée. Shameless." The last comment was a reply from Victoria. "Don't be unhappy. My husband will only be you." Caleb replied with a heart emoji. My temples throbbed watching this. I turned off my phone, out of sight, out of mind. Gordon arrived quickly to pick me up. He had obviously seen Caleb's post and spent the whole drive venting to me. I don't know if Caleb gets tired of acting all day. He's happy you're back, my ass. Has he forgotten when he and his mom got you kicked out of the Vance family and stole your engagement? Thank God the Cole family wasn't blind. Once they realized the groom was swapped, they canceled the engagement. But Victoria Sterling is actually blind. I thought living in a convent for 5 years meant she had deep feelings for you. Who knew she'd end up with Caleb Vance? He rolled his eyes as he spoke. I found it amusing. Victoria has no deep feelings for me. The one she's always wanted to marry is Caleb. Gordon's eyes widened. How can that be? Victoria was so good to you back then. Was Victoria good to me back then? The answer churned in my heart, bringing up the old, scorching pain in my lungs. When I was 13, my mother discovered my father's affair. She couldn't handle it and jumped into the ocean, leaving not even a body behind. From that day on, my life entered a nightmare. After my mother's funeral, my father brought Caleb and his mother home. They took my room, sold my mother's belongings at will, and even framed me, forcing my father to kick me out. I was forced to live in a damp apartment in the Bronx. I was soon diagnosed with severe mental illness, and due to the medication, my weight ballooned to nearly 300 pounds. My father, disgusted that I embarrassed him, ignored me completely. It was Victoria Sterling who suddenly descended from the sky, pulling me out of the nightmare. She was the heiress to the Sterling fortune, the renowned ice queen of society. Yet she was willing to move into the Bronx to be my neighbor for me, standing in front of me when others mocked my size. She accompanied me to therapy, and upon learning that part of my illness stemmed from a lack of love, she opened her arms without hesitation. "Julian, be with me. I will love you." That was the only warmth I touched in the 7 years after my mother died. I fell hopelessly in love with Victoria. I even nodded without hesitation when my father demanded I give up my engagement with the Cole family heiress to Caleb. It didn't matter. I had Victoria. That was enough. I returned to the apartment feeling light, only to find Victoria dead drunk. She grabbed my hand, pulled a ring from her pocket, and slurred, "Julian, marry me." My heart was sweet. Before I could answer, she passed out. I wanted to help her to the bedroom, but I saw her phone light up. A message from her best friend, Chloe. "Vicky, are you really planning to marry the pig? Even if you can't marry Caleb, you don't have to waste the rest of your life on that pig, right?" I froze, realizing the pig referred to me. I went instantly rigid, my hands trembling as I picked up the phone and scrolled to earlier messages. Victoria had said to Chloe, "Caleb feels he's illegitimate, that his status is shameful, that he's not good enough for me. So I'll find a man even more shameful to prove to him I don't care about any of that." She said, "I found him. His name is Julian Vance. Fat and poor. Shameful enough. Caleb is 10,000 times better than him." She said, "I acted too well. That fatty loves me to death now. I'm actually scared he'll stalk me when I dump him." She said, "Julian turns out to be Caleb's brother. He always bullied Caleb and even dumped the unwanted engagement on him. I really want to tear Julian apart, but Caleb doesn't want me to hurt him. He says that's his brother and hopes I can treat him well." Treat him well? Huh. I might as well marry him. That way, Even if I can't marry Caleb, Caleb and I will still be family. I felt like I had fallen into an ice cavern. It turned out that from start to finish, Victoria never loved me. The tenderness and defense were all fake. I was a tool for her to prove herself, a backup option for her self-destruction. The image of my mother jumping into the sea after discovering the betrayal flashed before my eyes. I clutched my aching chest, my eyes burning hot. That same night, I booked a ticket abroad, changed my name, and cut all ties with Victoria Sterling. Julian, Gordon's voice pulled me back to reality. We're at your house. I turned my head and saw the familiar villa, mixed emotions rising in my heart. Since being kicked out at 13, I hadn't returned in 12 years. Walking in, my father was sitting on the living room sofa. He looked unsettled when he saw me. You lost weight. I nodded, not planning to exchange pleasantries. You were so mysterious on the phone. Can you tell me the news about Mom's belongings now? No ruse. Go sleep off the jet lag first. I was indeed exhausted, so I didn't argue and followed the butler to the guest room. When I woke up, it was already noon the next day. I went downstairs to eat. Reaching the staircase, I heard laughter coming from the living room. Although the engagement was set quickly, we won't skip any necessary procedures. We won't shortchange the kids. It was Victoria's mother. She was smiling as she placed a watch, symbolizing a sterling son-in-law, on Caleb's wrist. Looking at the watch, Caleb smiled in delight. He showed it to Victoria, but she just gave it a plain look. I glanced at the Vance and Sterling families on the sofa and was planning to detour to the kitchen when Caleb suddenly called out to me. Bro, you're awake. Everyone is discussing the wedding details. Do you want to listen in? Actually, I'm missing a best man. Bro, why don't you do it? I paused and looked back at Caleb. He held his arm with the watch up high, terrified I wouldn't see it. Victoria sat aside, looking cold, but I felt she was anticipating my answer. I withdrew my gaze and spoke flatly. I'm already married with a child. I can't be your best man. Victoria's eyes snapped up to look at me. The air solidified for a few seconds before Caleb's laughter broke it. Bro, even if you don't want to be my best man, you don't have to tell such a lie. If you're married with a child, why didn't your wife and kid come back with you? My father also snapped out of his daze, lying about marriage and children so casually. You've really lost all manners abroad these past few years. I'm not lying. They'll be here in a few days. I took out my phone, wanted to pull up photos of Sienna and Lily to show them, but I heard Victoria scoff. Julian, you've acted the part so long. Don't trick yourself into believing it. After saying that, she stood up abruptly and walked out. Caleb gave me a strange look and chased after her. Everyone's gaze followed them. No one paid me any more attention. I didn't bore myself further. I closed my photo album and went to the kitchen to fill my stomach. There was a 16-hour time difference between New York and San Francisco. I was bored all afternoon. I finally fell into a deep sleep at 2:00 a.m. after video chatting with Sienna. I was woken up by a commotion. I got up to look and found Victoria and Caleb taking wedding photos in the garden. The photographer was directing their poses. Caleb hugged Victoria from behind, resting his chin on her head. Victoria turned with a smile and kissed his cheek. Noticing my gaze, the butler came over to explain. Miss Sterling suggested taking the wedding photos at home. She said Master Caleb grew up here, so it's meaningful. I nodded indifferently. The noise was too loud for me to go back to sleep, so I found a random spot to sit and read. I asked my father about my mother's belongings a few more times, but he never gave a straight answer. He just sighed and asked, Julian, if I tell you now, will you move out immediately? I certainly would, because this hadn't been my home for a long time. My father guessed correctly, so he delayed telling me about the belongings, leaving me stuck at the Vance estate. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Victoria and Caleb change shooting locations several times. I didn't know if it was my imagination, but in such a huge villa, they seemed to always be shooting right under my nose. But I didn't care, focusing intently on my book. The photographer's voice drifted over. Miss Sterling, watch your expression. Don't look so grim, smile. Soon came a new instruction. Miss Sterling, keep your eyes on Master Caleb's face. Don't look elsewhere. I looked up casually and locked eyes with Victoria. She coldly withdrew her gaze and pressed her fingers on the back of Caleb's hand. Caleb, let's rest for 10 minutes. Caleb pursed his lips and didn't say anything, but the look he shot me was instantly filled with venom. I found it baffling. After thinking about it, I decided to go back to my room. As I passed their shooting area, Caleb seized the moment and kicked a hexagonal light stand used for fill lighting. The metal stand scraped against the ground with a sharp screech, falling straight toward me and Caleb. Victoria quickly pulled Caleb away. The heavy metal smashed into my head. Instantly, warm liquid flowed down my forehead and the smell of blood filled my nose. I fell to the ground, struggling to push the light stand off me, feeling pain everywhere. Before I could recover, I heard Caleb ask me with feigned anger, "Bro, why did you push the light stand?" If Vicky hadn't reacted fast, I would have been hit and scarred. The wedding would have had to be postponed. Victoria wore an expression of realization, her face sweeping over me like frost. "Julian, no wonder you were so calm watching us take photos. You'd already planned how to ruin it. You think disrupting our photo shoot gives you a chance? I'm telling you, it's wishful thinking." Without waiting for my response, she pulled Caleb away. Through my blurred vision, I saw Caleb curl his lips, flashing me a vicious smile. The butler arranged a car to take me to the hospital. After getting stitched up, I didn't go home. I took the medical report directly to the police station and filed a report. But I didn't expect to receive a call back while I was still on my way home. "Mr. Vance, your case has just been dropped. This is considered a family matter. We can't really intervene. You should communicate with your family." The person on the other end spoke vaguely, but I understood immediately. My report had been suppressed. There was only one person in New York with that kind of power who would protect Caleb, Victoria Sterling. My hand tightened on the phone until my palm hurt. Returning to the Vance house, the moment I pushed open the door, I heard Victoria's harsh voice. "Caleb, and I didn't hold you accountable for the light stand. How do you have the face to play the victim and call the police?" "Yeah, bro, you deliberately interrupted our photo shoot. I didn't say anything because you're my brother. I didn't expect you to turn around and call the cops." I looked at these two people, blood surging in my chest, my voice trembling. "I played the victim? I did it deliberately? Do you dare to pull the house surveillance footage and say those words again?" Victoria looked impatient. "I don't need to check the surveillance. I just need you to remember, don't delusionally try any tricks to ruin my wedding with Caleb. Julian, from the moment you left me 5 years ago, you lost your chance to regret." I found it utterly laughable. I stared at Victoria and enunciated clearly, "I have never regretted leaving you. I'll say it again. I didn't come back for you. I'm already married with a child." Victoria's face darkened instantly. I ignored her and turned to go back to my room. Afraid Sienna and Lily would worry if they saw the wound on my forehead, I canceled the nightly video call and used voice messages instead. Sienna sensed something was wrong and asked twice, but I vaguely brushed it off. When the wound healed a bit, my father finally told me the news about my mother's item. "At tomorrow's auction, there's a jade pendant your mother loved very much." I paused, my heart jumping. After my mother jumped into the ocean, her belongings were either thrown away by Caleb's mother or sold. This was the first time in 12 years I had news of her possessions. I understand. I looked up at my father, no gratitude in my eyes. The auction was held at the most luxurious hotel in downtown. I made sure to arrive half an hour early. Just as I found my seat, I saw Victoria and Caleb walk in. They were dressed in matching colors, acting intimately, the picture of a perfect couple. Seeing me, Caleb's eyes lit up. He pulled Victoria over quickly, feigning surprise. "Bro, you actually came to the auction too? Did you come because Dad told you we'd be here? After all, you never used to attend these kinds of events." I sneered. I didn't come before because I was left to rot in the Bronx, barely able to feed myself. Caleb knew the facts, but insisted on pretending ignorance, deliberately twisting my intentions. Sure enough, I soon heard Victoria's slightly mocking scoff. Clearly, she thought I was here for him again. I couldn't be bothered to explain. My gaze fell on the auction stage. Caleb kept chatting enthusiastically beside me, as if the discord of the past 2 days never happened. "Bro, what are you planning to bid on?" "Vicky plans to bid on some jewelry for me as an engagement gift." The boast in his tone was unconcealable. Fortunately, the auctioneer announced the start, interrupting this meaningless one-sided conversation. The first item was brought out quickly, a jade-encrusted watch. I wasn't interested, but I glanced at it a few times. The next second, Victoria raised her paddle. 1 million. Her voice was flat, instantly drowning out other bids. The watch was successfully sold. She asked her assistant to give it to Caleb. Caleb smiled until his eyes squinted. "Vicky, you're so good to me." For the next few items, as long as I looked at them, Victoria would bid. Every time a sale was made, Caleb would give me a smug look. People around us quickly noticed the situation. Looks of amusement drifted over me as they whispered, "Is Miss Sterling backing up her fiancé? Looks like she's suppressing Julian Vance." Backing him up? Miss Sterling is venting her anger. Back when Julian was 300 pounds, she didn't despise him and was ready to marry him. But he left her without a word to go abroad. Now hearing she's getting married, he comes back regretting it. Truly shameless. Came back to crash the wedding? Then how is he different from a homewrecker? Disgusting. The words pricked my ears like needles. I bit my lip, telling myself to stay calm. My mother's pendant coming up was the most important thing. Finally, the auctioneer held up a brocade box. The next item is a white jade pendant from the Qing dynasty, perfectly preserved. Starting bid, 2 million. The moment the box opened, I held my breath. The warm, clear white jade was the one my mother carried with her back then. I immediately raised my paddle. 2 million. 3 million. Victoria's voice rang out instantly. I looked back at her. She didn't look at me. Her gaze was on Caleb, as if asking for his opinion. Caleb nodded with a smile. She raised her paddle again. 5 million. 6 million. I gripped the paddle tight, my knuckles turning white. This was my mother's only remaining artifact. I couldn't give it up. 8 million. Victoria's voice was light, but carried an undeniable dominance. The auction hall went into an uproar. Someone whispered, "Is Miss Sterling trying to buy out the house?" I looked at Victoria, my throat tight. "Victoria, that is my mother's legacy. Could you please?" Legacy. She finally looked at me, a cold sneer on her lips. "Julian, if you want it, bid for it with your own capability. If you don't have the capability, don't play pity here." She raised her hand and said to the auctioneer, "Light the sky lantern." Lighting the sky lantern meant she would take it no matter how much others bid. A blank check. The auctioneer froze, then smiled. "Miss Sterling lights the sky lantern. Then this jade pendant belongs to Miss Sterling." Caleb pulled Victoria's hand, eyes shining. "Vicky, you're amazing. This pendant is beautiful. I want to put it in our new house." I sat in my seat, watching their joined hands, my body freezing cold, feeling like a piece of my heart had been gouged out. After the auction, Victoria went to pay. I blocked Caleb. He was holding the brocade box, smiling smugly. "Bro, something up? Sell the pendant to me." My voice trembled. "Any price. I'll give you double." "No, triple." Caleb raised an eyebrow, deliberately opening the box to reveal the jade. "Bro, you want it?" "Sure." Kneel and beg me, and I might consider it. People around us looked over, faces full of anticipation for the drama. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. My mother's legacy was right in front of me. I couldn't give up. My knees bent, and I knelt on the floor. "I beg you." I looked up at Caleb. "Give me the pendant." Caleb's smile grew brighter. He raised his hand, taking the pendant out of the box, but suddenly let go the second before handing it to me. The jade hit the floor. With a crisp sound, it shattered into several pieces. "Oops, bro. Why didn't you catch it?" He spread his hands, his tone innocent. "Guess there's nothing we can do now." I looked at the shattered jade on the floor, feeling like my heart had been stabbed, so painful I couldn't breathe. "Caleb Vance." I scrambled up and grabbed Caleb by the collar. 1 second, he was full of provocation. The next, he quickly put on a fragile, terrified expression. "Julian, what are you doing?" Victoria's voice came from nearby, full of anger. She rushed over, shoving me to the ground. She looked Caleb up and down, asking nervously, "Are you okay?" "Hurt." Caleb nodded, then quickly shook his head in panic. "Vicky, don't blame brother. He might just be unhappy he didn't win what he wanted, so he tried to snatch the engagement gift you bought me. It's my fault. I didn't hold the pendant tight." Victoria's gaze fell on me, carrying a monstrous rage. "Julian, you're the one who claimed you didn't regret leaving me. So what are you doing now? Snatching the engagement gift I gave Caleb? I can't believe you'd stoop so low. Apologize to Caleb." I climbed up from the floor. My knees were scraped and burning with pain, but I gritted my teeth and didn't make a sound. I didn't snatch his thing, and I won't apologize. Victoria laughed coldly. "You'd better hope you can keep running your mouth." She pulled Caleb away. My trembling hands picked up the shards of jade. My hand was cut, blood staining the broken jade, but I couldn't feel the pain. "Mom, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect your legacy." I knelt on the ground, tears uncontrollably surging out, body and mind shattered. Once I had cried enough, I booked a hotel, planning to move out of the Vance house. That wasn't my home. Where Sienna and Lily were was my home, but it would be 5 more days before they returned. However, while I was packing my luggage at the Vance house halfway through, the guest room door was suddenly thrown open. Victoria stood there, face livid, holding a riding crop, the leather gleaming cold. My heart sank. I heard Victoria say, "Julian, you snatched Caleb's gift today and made the Vance family a laughingstock. Your father said, since you don't know manners, family discipline should teach you a lesson. Today I'll do it for him. If you have any shame, cut off those unwanted thoughts early." After speaking, she raised her hand. Bodyguards immediately walked in and restrained me without a word. I looked at the certainty in Victoria's eyes and suddenly found it laughable. I had explained countless times, yet Victoria insisted I came back because of her wedding. I truly didn't know if I hadn't been clear, or if she refused to believe the truth that she simply wasn't important to me. Crack! The crop lashed against my back. Burning pain exploded instantly. I groaned but didn't cry. Lash after lash. My back felt like it was on fire. The bodyguards couldn't bear to watch and turned their faces away. Victoria's breathing was heavy, as if suppressing something, but the force of the crop didn't lighten. Only when my knees gave out and I collapsed to the floor did she stop. She threw the crop down with a crisp clatter. Remember today's lesson. She looked down at me from above. Stop thinking about obstructing my wedding with Caleb. I was trembling with pain, but hearing this, I laughed out loud. Victoria Sterling, you are truly self-righteous. Victoria's face instantly soured. She gave me a cold look, turned, and left. When the servants helped me to the bed, I couldn't even stand. Blood seeped from the wounds on my back, soaking my clothes. As I drifted into a groggy sleep, I felt someone applying cool ointment to my wounds, stinging slightly. In my haze, I thought it was Sienna. I subconsciously murmured, "Honey, it hurts." The hand applying the ointment paused. I struggled to open my eyes and saw Victoria standing by the bed, ointment in hand, staring at me gloomily. "Looks like you aren't hurt that bad if you're still acting." Her voice was cold as ice. She threw the ointment on me and walked away. I gave a weak laugh and fell back into a heavy sleep. Because of the whipping wounds, I had to stay at the Vance house. Although I didn't leave my room, I could always hear the Vance and Sterling families discussing the wedding. They seemed to be choosing an engagement venue recently. I heard Caleb ask in a surprised tone, "Even though bro always bullies me, is this really okay?" "What's not okay? Consider it venting your anger." Victoria answered him gently. I thought the venting she meant was causing me trouble, but I never expected she would go after my mother's grave. My mother was lost at sea, leaving no remains. When I was with Victoria, she said her heart ached for me. She personally set up a memorial cenotaph, an empty grave for my mother on the hill behind the Sterling family's country estate, and carved a tombstone. That was the only place I could pay respects to my mother. After my injuries healed enough to leave the Vance house, I went to the hill immediately. I had planned to bring my mother's heirloom to show her, but now, aside from a bouquet of flowers, I had nothing. But when I arrived, I saw several workers prying at my mother's tombstone with crowbars. Caleb stood to the side, holding blueprints and directing them. After demolishing this, level it and scatter grass seeds. My eyes nearly split with rage. I threw the flowers and charged, shoving the workers away. "Stop! This is my mother's tombstone. Who gave you permission to demolish it?" Caleb looked at me leisurely. "This is Vicky's idea, of course. She said the scenery here is good, suitable for the engagement party, and told me to change it however I want. Bro, your mom's empty grave is taking up space." As he spoke, he signaled the workers to pull me away. I hugged my mother's tombstone, refusing to let go. While we were in a stalemate, Victoria arrived. Seeing the situation, she frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Caleb immediately stepped forward, grabbing Victoria's hand, his tone aggrieved. "Vicky, bro keeps interrupting our wedding prep. I'm really scared he'll cause a scene at the engagement party in 2 days." Victoria's frown deepened, but her eyes were full of understanding. She glanced at me coldly and told the bodyguards behind her, "Lock him in the estate's storage room. You guys continue demolishing." 2 bodyguards stepped up, grabbed my arms, and dragged me down the hill. I struggled, shouting "Don't demolish it," but no one listened. The storage room was pitch black. I curled up in the corner, my heart filled with bitterness. "Mom's memorial must be destroyed by now, right?" "Sorry, Mom. I couldn't protect your heirloom. And now I haven't even protected your grave." Tears streamed down my cheeks. I don't know how much time passed, but I heard Victoria talking on the phone on the second-floor balcony. It was Chloe's voice on the other end. "Vicky, why have you been targeting the pig lately? You care so much. Don't tell me you've fallen for him. You lived in that convent for 5 years to force your family to agree to you marrying Caleb Vance, didn't you? Like him? Impossible." Victoria's tone was mocking. Julian left without a word when he refused to marry me. Now he regrets it and comes back just like that? What does he take me for? If I didn't do something, how could I justify enduring the nausea of dating him for that year? I just found it funny. So the truth of Victoria living in a convent for 5 years was actually that. It was laughable that everyone thought she stayed in the convent because I broke her heart, and everyone thought I returned to crash the wedding and win her back. Even Victoria herself was so certain of this that she deliberately sought revenge on me. But I had said long ago I was already married with a child. Thinking of Sienna and Lily, my heart warmed a little. Counting the time, 3 more days until they returned. I thought I would be locked up until Victoria and Caleb's engagement was over, but on the day of the party, I was released. Victoria looked at me coldly. Caleb wants your blessing. That's why I let you out. You'd better behave yourself, and don't try any tricks. I responded with silence. My gaze fell on where my mother's memorial used to be. It had been completely demolished, turned into a sea of flowers. The scene was lively, the air filled with the scent of perfume and champagne. Guests gathered in small groups, discussing the grandeur of the engagement. I heard the Sterling family spent hundreds of millions on this engagement. Exactly. Even Sienna Cole was invited. CEO Cole lives in San Francisco now and rarely returns. That the Sterlings could invite her shows how much they value Caleb. Sienna? My heart jumped. I took out my phone to text Sienna. Just as I opened the chat, a hand clamped down on mine. Julian, what are you trying to do now? Victoria's gaze was unkind. I just said, don't try any tricks. I'm not. I looked at her. I've said many times, I didn't come back for you, and I won't do anything to stop your wedding. Meeting my emotionless eyes, a sliver of unease suddenly rose in Victoria's heart. Could Julian really not have returned for her? Her breathing inadvertently quickened. But the next second, the venue suddenly went into an uproar. Victoria and I looked up simultaneously. The large screen at the venue had lit up, playing intimate photos of me and Victoria from when we were dating. In the photos, I weighed 300 pounds, wore baggy clothes, and stood next to Victoria, smiling foolishly. The guests exploded. Oh my God, is that Julian Vance? He was so fat back then. I heard Julian came back to crash the wedding, but I didn't expect him to be so shameless as to show these photos at the engagement party. So uneducated. It must be because he had no mother to raise him. The mocking words stabbed into my heart like knives. I went stiff. Before I could explain, Caleb's breakdown could be heard nearby. Bro, I know you haven't let go of Vicky, but you shouldn't show these photos at my engagement party to humiliate me. Tell me, I can give Vicky up to you. He ran out with red eyes. Caleb, Victoria shouted anxiously. She wanted to chase him, but stopped when she saw me still standing there. Smack! My face burned with pain instantly. Victoria's eyes were splitting with rage, but I felt she seemed relieved. Julian, this is what you meant by not doing anything to stop my wedding. Turns out you had this arranged waiting for me. I'm telling you, the engagement continues. Don't dream of getting your way. She finished and was about to push me aside to chase after him. Just then, a childish voice rang out. You aren't allowed to bully my daddy. My daughter Lily, wearing a pink princess dress, ran over from a distance, hugged my leg, and glared fiercely at Victoria. A perfect protective stance. The air went dead silent for a moment. The guests who were watching the drama were dumbfounded looking at my suddenly appearing daughter. A moment later, they reacted, whispering amongst themselves. Julian Vance has a child? Then why is he trying to crash his brother's wedding? Could it be the child is related to Victoria? As soon as this was said, gasps filled the venue. Victoria stopped chasing Caleb. She froze, staring blankly at my daughter's face, which was carved from the same mold as mine. Seeing this, Lily hugged my leg tighter. I took a deep breath, picked Lily up, and turned to leave the engagement party. I'd taken 2 steps when Victoria grabbed my wrist. Whose child is this? I was about to speak when another commotion came from nearby. My father and Victoria's father were crowding around a bright, noble young woman walking into the venue. My father was all smiles. Sienna, you must stay a few more days this time. Let me be a good host. Although our family's engagement was canceled, the friendship remains. Please don't refuse. Mr. Sterling was also smiling beside her. Although Sienna had lived in San Francisco for years, her domestic business hadn't slackened. The Cole family's market value had tripled just last year, far stronger than when the engagement with the Vance family was made. So even though my father was unhappy about the Cole family canceling the engagement back then, he was incredibly enthusiastic now that Sienna showed up. Sienna didn't reply. Her gaze swept the room and finally settled on me. She walked toward me. Lily called out crisply, Mommy. The crowd's eyes, which had shifted from Victoria and me to Sienna, instantly snapped back to us. Lily, unaware of anything wrong, shouted again, Mommy, come quick. Someone is bullying Daddy. The atmosphere solidified again, followed by another wave of gasps. I didn't hear that the Cole heiress got married. She definitely didn't marry. Julian is unloved by his dad and mom, with no backing. How could the Cole family agree to let him marry Sienna? I bet Julian is just the side piece, so he came back to crash the wedding to try his luck to see if he could climb up to the Sterlings? Probably. He definitely can't snag the Cole family. They didn't speak loudly, but Victoria and I were close enough to hear clearly. Victoria's gaze toward me was heavy. It made Lily uncomfortable in my arms. Her little hand gripped my shirt tightly. Lily, Sienna finally walked up to me, familiarly taking our daughter from my arms. I couldn't find you the moment I got out of the car. If you got lost, how would I explain it to Daddy? She smiled gently at our daughter, but her gaze turned dark when it shifted to my face. What happened? No guessing needed. The side of my face Victoria just slapped must be red and swollen. I was about to answer, but my daughter beat me to it. That person hit him. She pointed her little hand at Victoria, then pointed at the intimate photos of me and Victoria on the big screen. And those people, they laughed at Daddy for being fat and said Daddy has no manners because he had no mommy to teach him. Sienna's gaze landed lightly on the big screen, then quickly moved away, sweeping over the present guests and finally landing on Victoria. A moment later, she laughed coldly. Someone immediately tried to smooth things over, attempting to suck up to Sienna. CEO Cole, it's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. We didn't know Julian was your person. If we knew... He didn't finish because Sienna's face was getting darker. She raised her hand, and black-clad bodyguards immediately ran over. CEO Cole, smash that screen, Sienna ordered coldly. She turned her gaze to my father and Victoria's father, who were trying to intervene, and enunciated clearly, any damages Cole Industries will pay. Watching the large screen be smashed into ruins, Victoria finally snapped out of it. Seeing our family of 3 standing intimately together, she obviously realized whose child Lily was. Her gaze landed on Sienna holding my hand, and she soon scoffed. Julian, all these years you said Caleb bullied you because his mom was a mistress and he was illegitimate. I thought you were so pure and flawless. Turns out, in the end, you also became someone's mistress and had an illegitimate daughter. Huh. As she spoke, her tone was full of mockery, yet carried a trace of resentment. Sienna put Lily down and raised her hand, delivering a slap right across Victoria's face. That slap is for that sentence just now. Before anyone could react, she slapped Victoria again. And this slap is for the one you gave Julian earlier. She didn't hold back at all. Both sides of Victoria's face swelled instantly. Sienna cast her aside and looked solemnly at the people present. Listen well. Julian Vance is my, Sienna Cole's, lawful husband. If I hear any untoward words from your mouths in the future, don't blame the Cole family for showing no mercy. The guests gasped again, but also felt a lingering fear. Thankfully, they hadn't done anything too extreme. Victoria stood frozen. Lawful. When did you get married? Sienna looked at her like she was trash and parted her lips lightly. 5 years ago. Victoria looked at me in disbelief, her expression shattering. You mean, not long after you left me and went abroad? You married her? Julian, do you have a heart? I looked at Victoria flatly, wondering how she had the face to ask that. Victoria, I'll leave that question for you to answer yourself. With that, I didn't want to stay there any longer. This farce had lasted long enough. I took Sienna's hand. Let's go. Sienna nodded, picked up our daughter again, held my hand, and left the engagement party. Behind us, Victoria stared burningly at my retreating back, her eyes full of a brokenness she wasn't even aware of. As the car drove down the hill, I could faintly hear the noise from the engagement party halfway up, but gradually faded into background noise. Lily nestled in my arms, her small hand clutching my hem, rubbing her head against my neck. Daddy, those bad people won't bully you anymore, right? I lowered my head and kissed her soft hair, my voice hoarse. They won't. Mommy is here. Sienna paused, turned her head to glance at me, her eyes full of tenderness. She freed a hand and gently covered mine on my knee. Warmth passed through the thin fabric like a heater, dispelling the residual cold in my body. Sorry I'm late. Her voice was soft but carried a reassuring strength. You were out of contact for 2 days. I was worried, so I had people check your traces and found out you were locked up by Victoria. I immediately applied for an international flight. As soon as Lily's visa cleared, I flew back with her. My heart tightened, thinking of the 2 days locked in the storage room with no signal. Sienna must have been frantic in San Francisco. I'm sorry I worried you. I held her hand back, my thumb brushing the wedding band on her ring finger. We chose simple bands when we married. Sienna never took hers off, but mine had to be put away because it no longer fit after my drastic weight loss, and I was afraid of losing it. Sienna gave me many rings afterward, but none had the meaning of that one, so I didn't wear them. If I had known returning would cause such a misunderstanding with Victoria, I should have worn a ring back. But thinking about it, whether I wore a ring or not, Victoria would have been certain my marriage was a lie and that I came back for her. Hearing my apology, Sienna sighed and held my hand tighter. Silly, I'm the one who should say sorry. If I knew so much would happen when you returned, I should have come back with you. Lily nodded too. Daddy, don't apologize. It's not Daddy's fault. Looking at the big one and the little one, I felt infinite warmth rising in my heart. The car turned smoothly onto a tree-lined avenue. Watching the approaching Villa District, I finally remembered to ask, "Where are we going?" Sienna smiled. "To our newlywed home." Huh, I paused. "Did you prepare this when you came back for business the last 2 years?" Sienna didn't say yes or no, just hinted, "You'll see later." The car finally stopped in front of a lakeside villa. The first thing I saw when I got out was a peach tree planted in the yard. Judging by the thickness of the trunk, it had been planted for many years. Walking into the villa, the layout was exactly like our home in San Francisco. The living room sofa was my favorite brand. The coffee table held chocolates from San Francisco, the kind I ate whenever I was in a bad mood. I was in a daze, almost thinking I was back in San Francisco. Lily was also incredibly excited, running around nonstop from the moment we entered. My eyes suddenly felt hot. Sienna had prepared everything without me knowing. All these years abroad, she was always like this, silently arranging everything for me, never letting me suffer a grievance. "What's wrong?" Sienna noticed my mood and asked quickly, "Is there something you don't like? I'll have someone change it immediately." I walked over and hugged her, shaking my head. "I love it." Sienna relaxed and hugged me back. Lily suddenly called me from the second floor. "Daddy, I found a room here that's different from our house in San Francisco." Her tone was excited, as if she made a big discovery. I answered Lily and prepared to let go of Sienna to go upstairs. But Sienna refused to let go. "Hug a bit longer." "Hubby, we haven't seen each other for 10 days. Helpless, I let Sienna hold me. Dinner was noodles cooked by Sienna. After eating, I played with Lily for a while and put her to bed. Lily had used too much energy during the day and fell asleep quickly. I was about to get up and go back to the master bedroom when the bed behind me suddenly dipped. Sienna lay behind me, her arm familiarly wrapping around my waist, but she suddenly paused when she touched a ridge. My breathing slowed, my heart started to race. That was the freshly healed whip scar. I hadn't told Sienna yet. To outsiders, Sienna was the new head of the Cole family, a dignified heiress who showed no emotion. But being with her for 5 years, I knew better than anyone that Sienna sought revenge for the smallest grievance. And I was her reverse scale, her absolute weak spot. I once worked at a magazine in San Francisco. The new director looked down on Asians. No matter how excellent my drafts were, the response was always to redo them. After Sienna found out, she bought the magazine without a word, not only firing the director, but suing him for racial discrimination. Afterward, I received an apology and compensation. I ran excitedly to share with Sienna and teased her, "Sienna, you're like the omnipotent CEO in romance novels." Sienna gave a faint smile. "I am. So, my dear male lead, can you not carry everything alone? Rely on me a little more." I nodded. Since then, telling Sienna everything became our tacit agreement. But now, afraid Sienna would worry across the Pacific, I hadn't told her about any of my injuries. Sienna was definitely going to be angry. Sure enough, Sienna's eyes turned cold. She pulled me back to the master bedroom, turned on the light, and checked me over and over. After confirming all the injuries on my body, her eyes were full of red. But I laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Her tone carried anger. I hugged her. "I'm laughing because you love me." Since returning 10 days ago, whether I was hit by the light stand, whipped, or locked in the storage room, no one cared a bit. My father remembered he had a son after 12 years only to use my mother's legacy to tie me to the Vance house, hoping to repair some father-son bond. But once it involved Caleb, he acted like he knew nothing, saying nothing, quietly watching me be bullied. Accumulating all the grievances and pain, I had to grit my teeth and endure alone. But facing Sienna, I remembered that I was loved. "Seeing you care about me so much makes me happy." With one sentence, Sienna wasn't angry anymore. She sighed, pulled me in her arms, and patted me gently like coaxing a child. "It's okay. It's all in the past. Whoever bullied you, I won't let them have it easy." I lay in Sienna's arms and fell into a peaceful sleep. Only Sienna remained, looking at the scars on my body, her expression gradually darkening. While Sienna and I were in peaceful bliss, Victoria, on the other hand, had been distracted since we left the engagement party. The engagement party scene was a mess. Parts of the large screen Sienna ordered smashed lay scattered on the ground. Guests stood nearby with varying expressions. Whispers surged like a tide, suppressed but piercing, every word drilling into Victoria's ears. Julian is Sienna Cole's lawful husband. Fake, right? How could the Cole family agree to let Julian marry Sienna? Speaking of which, the Vance and Cole families had an engagement before. The Cole family nodding to Julian entering the family doesn't seem problematic. Plus, With how protective Sienna was just now, Julian doesn't look like a side piece. If Julian is the Cole family's son-in-law, who said he came back to crash the wedding, he married Sienna, does he need to steal someone else's marriage? These words were like tiny ice picks stabbing Victoria's heart. She stood rigid, her gaze still fixed on the direction the family of three had left, even though they were long gone. Julian actually really was married with a child. He really didn't return because of her wedding news. She suddenly remembered the day Julian returned. He told her without emotion, "I returned to handle some business, not for you." She thought it was a clumsy excuse. Remembering the Vance living room, when Caleb invited Julian to be best man, he said flatly he was married with a child. She thought he was still acting. Remembering when she mocked Julian, saying he had no chance after leaving her 5 years ago, he told her word for word, "I have never regretted leaving you." But she only treated it as his hard-to-get game. But what he said was actually true. But how could it be true? Clearly, 5 years ago, Julian loved her so deeply. Back then, Julian was 300 pounds, always following timidly behind her. If she walked a step faster, he had to trot to keep up. She said she liked the pastries from the south side of the city. He would run across half the city in the snow to buy them. When he returned, his hands were purple from the cold, but he handed the pastry to her first, smiling. "Taste it. It's still hot." Even when she casually mentioned, "It'd be nice if you were thinner," he hid at home eating boiled vegetables for 2 weeks, finally fainting in the therapist's office. Back then, the look in Julian's eyes held stars, was blindingly bright. He once hugged her and said, "Victoria, I think I will only love you in this life." The firmness in his tone made her think this love would truly last a lifetime. So when he returned 5 years later, she assumed without thinking that he regretted it, that he couldn't let go, that seeing her getting married made him rush back to steal her. She even thought his weight loss was to please her. After all, he used to be insecure about his weight, hiding behind her when they stood together. She was certain his marriage and child were lies, certain his lack of regret was stubbornness, certain everything he did was to make her turn back. But this certainty became a joke after Sienna and her daughter appeared. Her revenge these past few days was an even bigger joke. She thought Julian came to beg her to turn back, so she deliberately let him see her and Caleb acting intimate for photos, deliberately snatched the auction item he wanted, and even deliberately demolished his mother's memorial. She wanted him to taste the bitterness of wanting something he couldn't have. But from start to finish, he didn't come back for her. Her revenge must look incredibly laughable to him. True, when she warned Julian again and again not to be delusional, Julian said, "Victoria Sterling, you are truly self-righteous." She really was self-righteous. Vicky. Hearing someone call her vaguely, Victoria finally snapped back. She saw Richard Vance frowning in front of her, looking at her with an ugly expression. "What are you spacing out for?" I asked where Caleb is. She realized belatedly that Caleb ran out earlier. She was going to chase him, but got stopped by the ensuing events. Seeing her state, Richard showed displeasure. Sienna smashing the screen had already made him lose face. Now Victoria looked so distracted. Anger surged from his heart, but was forcibly suppressed. His tone deepened. "Victoria, you're about to be the Vance family daughter-in-law. Is this how you treat Caleb? He's been gone so long. Aren't you worried at all?" Victoria opened her mouth to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. Her gaze fell on the sea of flowers in the distance. That flower bed used to be Julian's mother's memorial. At the time, she forcibly demolished the memorial and had Julian locked in a storage room for 2 days. Richard knew Julian's plight from beginning to end, but he said nothing, asked nothing. The next day, he was even smilingly discussing with her mother how to better arrange the engagement venue. Not just the storage room, the light stand, the whip. Julian suffered many injuries these past few days. She never heard Richard ask a single caring sentence. They were both sons. Caleb was gone for a short while, and Richard was anxious enough to question her. But toward Julian, he acted like he was an irrelevant stranger, clearly accustomed to this. Would such a biased father really let Julian bully Caleb? She remembered Caleb telling her that because his mom was a mistress and he was illegitimate, whenever Julian was around, Julian bullied him. Julian would steal his room, steal his clothes, and even deliberately shove the unwanted engagement onto him to force him to marry. Before, she believed it because Caleb looked pitiful and because she liked Caleb. So, without checking, she was certain Julian bullied Caleb. But thinking back now, was that really the truth? With Richard there, could Julian really bully Caleb? And was the engagement with the Cole family really something Julian didn't want? Seeds of doubt sprouted in Victoria's heart. Before she could think it through, she heard Richard again. Victoria, are you listening to me? Caleb has been gone so long. Why aren't you looking for him? Because Victoria didn't speak for a while, Richard's tone became more dissatisfied. Victoria pulled the corners of her mouth, trying to force a reassuring smile, but found her facial muscles stiff. I'll go look for him now. She dropped that sentence and turned to walk out of the banquet, her steps floating as if walking on cotton. Walking along the lawn, when she reached the cloister of the back door of the villa, Victoria heard muffled sobbing. Following the sound, Victoria saw Caleb sitting on a bench in the cloister, hands covering his face, shoulders shaking, looking extremely pitiful. In the past, she would have walked over and thrown herself into comforting Caleb. But now, she stood still, looking at Caleb's back, with no desire to move forward. She even felt that the grievance he displayed didn't seem that real. He seemed to be deliberately waiting there, displaying his pitiful side for her to see. This thought flashed through Victoria's mind. Caleb on the bench heard familiar footsteps and was initially happy. Obviously, Victoria must have believed Julian tampered with the big screen and came to find him after punishing Julian. From the day Julian returned, he sensed Victoria's abnormality. She seemed to be deliberately doing things to exact revenge on Julian, wanting Julian to be anxious and sad about their wedding news, even to do something immoral. He could see Victoria cared about Julian far more than she claimed. He was scared. Scared Victoria would eventually realize her true feelings and abandon him for Julian. So he deliberately framed Julian again and again, making Victoria's revenge come true, making the conflict and hurt between Julian and Victoria deeper and deeper. Deep enough that Julian would only be disappointed in Victoria, and Victoria would only think Julian was a vicious, scheming man. This way, it would be impossible for Victoria and Julian. She could only choose him. Now that Victoria really came to find him, it meant he did the right thing. But why did Victoria's footsteps stop nearby and not come closer? Usually, seeing him sad, shouldn't she have rushed up to coax him long ago? Did something happen that he didn't know? Caleb suddenly felt uncertain. His shoulders shook harder, but Victoria remained motionless. He panicked more, grit his teeth, stood up, pretended to be dizzy, and stumbled backward. Footsteps finally approached him urgently. He fell into a familiar embrace. Hearing Victoria call him with a hoarse voice, Caleb. Caleb looked up with red eyes, swollen like walnuts, acting strong. Vicky, is your engagement ceremony with brother over? He knew Victoria and Julian couldn't possibly hold an engagement ceremony, but he had to say it. This would better highlight his innocence and grievance. Victoria shook her head as expected. He and I won't be getting engaged. Caleb just secretly sighed in relief when he heard her continue. Julian is already married with a child, with Sienna Cole. How can that be? Caleb's eyes widened in disbelief. How could Julian be married to Sienna? Didn't the Cole family cancel the engagement? A man with no fatherly love, no motherly love, who used to be a fatty. What right did he have to marry Sienna? Caleb couldn't help clenching his fingers. The next second, he heard Victoria say coldly, "Yeah, I want to know too. How can that be? If Julian is already married, he naturally didn't come back to crash the wedding. Then what about interrupting the photo shoot, stealing the engagement gift, and the photos at the party?" Hearing Victoria's words, Caleb's heart skipped a beat. He met her eyes. The eyes once full of warmth, now only held scrutiny and assessment. Victoria seems to realize it was a setup. The thought made Caleb panic more, but soon he calmed down. Caleb gripped the hem of Victoria's shirt, knuckles turning white, the hurt in his eyes scalding Victoria's heart. If brother did those things not to crash the wedding, then surely it was to bully me. His voice trembled, every word choked with sobs. He hates that my mom stole his mom's marriage, so he disrupts our wedding prep time and again because he doesn't want me to be happy. I know my mom wronged his mom, but Vicky, his eyes were incredibly red, pitiful to the extreme. I'm innocent. Because I felt sorry for brother. When he bullied me all those years ago, I endured it and never told anyone. Finally, Dad found out and made him move to the Bronx to reflect. Only then did I have it a little better. Then he met you. He didn't want to fulfill the engagement with the Cole family, so he forced it onto me. Dad was furious, and I was the one who comforted him, saying I didn't mind. All these years for the sake of bro and Dad getting along, I swallowed every bitterness. I thought as long as I backed down, bro would eventually let go of the previous generation's grudges and stop targeting me. But I didn't expect, after 5 years, he still won't let me go. He cried until he choked. Victoria had her suspicions, but hearing Caleb's tearful speech, she suddenly realized. Julian and Richard had a bad relationship and hadn't lived together, with no father-son bond. It seemed natural for Richard to care more about Caleb. Caleb had always been gentle and sensible. Even after being forced into an engagement, he told her to treat Julian well. He was so kind. How could he have done those things? It really must have been Julian bullying Caleb again. Those earlier doubts were clearly just her overthinking. She started to blame herself. How could she forget Caleb's grievance just because Sienna and her daughter appeared? Seeing her expression soften, Caleb quickly added fuel to the fire. Vicky, it's fine if I suffer a little. But what bro did at the engagement party today will definitely make the Vance and Sterling families the subject of gossip. How about I go apologize to bro later, beg him to explain to everyone that today was just a joke? No. Victoria interrupted him, her tone suddenly firm. She raised her hand to wipe the tears from his face, her thumb brushing the redness at the corner of his eye. The doubt in her eyes was completely replaced by pity. He did wrong. If anyone apologizes, he should apologize to you. You've suffered so much. I can't let you endure anymore. Caleb's eyes flashed with an imperceptible smile, quickly covered by panic. He held Victoria's hand, whispering, but bro has Sienna protecting him now. So what if Sienna protects him? Victoria froned. Remembering the 2 punches Sienna gave her and Julian's cold back as he left, the anger in her heart surged again. Even if he married Sienna, he has to own up to his mistakes. The Cole family is powerful, but my Sterling family isn't easily bullied. It's too late today. Rest well. Tomorrow, I'll go find Julian and make him apologize to you. She helped Caleb stand straight, her fingertips tightening subconsciously, as if afraid he would suffer any more grievance. Caleb stood up obediently, smiling silently. I didn't expect to see Victoria Sterling again so soon. Her engagement party with Caleb had turned into a farce, becoming gossip widely circulated in the circle. I thought the Sterling and Vance families would be scrambling to handle the fallout. So when I heard the doorbell and saw Victoria, I was surprised. Victoria wore a black trench coat. The bruising on her face hadn't fully faded, and she looked haggard. Something the matter? My tone was flat and distant. Victoria didn't speak. Her gaze swept over me, finally stopping on the wedding photo of Sienna and me on the entryway wall. She stared at it for a long time, long enough that I thought she had no business here and just came to tour my wedding photos. If there's nothing, please leave. I issued an eviction order. Victoria finally snapped back, looking at me with a complex expression. Julian, go apologize to Caleb. Because you swapped the photos at the engagement party, Caleb is aggrieved to death. He's worried about people pointing fingers. Julian, you should apologize to him. Her words felt absurd to me. Victoria, surely you don't still think I came back for you? Victoria shook her head. I know you didn't. Since you know, and I have no motive to crash the wedding, why would I swap the photos? Am I bored? I laughed. But Victoria scoffed. Is it not true? From the moment Caleb returned to the Vance family, you've always bullied him. Now swapping photos at his engagement party to humiliate him isn't impossible. Julian, admit it when you do wrong. Otherwise, when I put the evidence in front of you, you'll have to apologize to more than just Caleb. This was a naked threat. Since my return, Victoria seemed to always have this attitude. Resentment, anger, and unwillingness, all wrapped in defense of Caleb, smashed onto me. But I didn't understand. What was she unwilling about? Evidence. A low, cold voice came from behind. I looked back and saw Sienna had gotten up and come downstairs. She wore silk pajamas, just walking lazily to my side. Her noble temperament overshadowed Victoria. Her gaze toward Victoria held undisguised hostility, like looking at an offender. Seeing Sienna, my face softened. I took her hand. Why up so early? After I fell asleep last night, Sienna couldn't sleep due to jet lag and worked in the study until late. I didn't expect her to wake up this early. Sienna squeezed my fingers, curving her lips slightly. Heard a dog barking, so I came to check. Sienna Cole. Veins popped on Victoria's forehead. Don't think just because you're a Cole you can spout nonsense. You're the one spouting nonsense. Sienna looked at her coldly. Miss Sterling just said she wanted to place evidence from the engagement party in front of my husband. No need for you to do it. I already have the evidence here. Sienna took out her phone, swiped the screen, and quickly pulled up a video to show Victoria. It was surveillance footage from the engagement party backstage. In the video, Caleb sneaked a USB drive to a staff member while no one was looking. Immediately after, the staff member took the drive into the control room. Not long after, the big screen started playing the photos of me and Victoria. There was also a screenshot of chat records after the video, a WeChat conversation between Caleb and that staff member, $50,000 after it's done. Must play it after Julian appears. Don't worry, Master Caleb. I guarantee Julian will be ruined. Do a good job. Once I become the Sterling's son-in-law, there will be benefits for you. Every message was like a slap in Victoria's face. Her fingers trembled slightly. Her eyes went from shock to disbelief, then to a sinking gloom. Impossible, she muttered to herself, as if trying to convince herself. Caleb isn't this kind of person. You must have forged this. Forged? Sienna laughed coldly, pulling up another document. This is that employee's bank statement. On the day of the party, his account received a transfer of 50,000. The sender was Caleb Vance. Sienna's voice was calm, but authoritative. Every sentence allowed no doubt. As for Caleb saying he was bullied, if you used your brain, you'd know. Look at Julian's state when you met him. If he could bully Caleb, he wouldn't have been living miserably in the Bronx. Victoria, calling you a dog is an insult to dogs. Dogs are smarter than you. But you've been played like a fiddle by Caleb Vance. Victoria's face turned pale bit by bit. Her lips moved, but she couldn't say a word of rebuttal. She remembered Caleb running out at the party, remembered the innocence and grievance he acted out in front of her time and time again. The scene she once trusted deeply now turned into sharp irony. Why? She stepped back in despair, eyes hollow, as if drained of all strength. How can Caleb be this kind of person? He was clearly so gentle and kind. I looked at her like this, feeling no waves in my heart. I just sighed. Caleb's gentleness and kindness are probably visible only to you. Victoria, if there's nothing else, please leave. I issued the eviction order again. This time Victoria didn't say anything. She stumbled as she turned, leaving the villa like a wandering ghost. After the door closed, I looked at Sienna. When did you find the evidence? It had been less than 24 hours since the photo incident. Sienna leaned into my arms. I started having people investigate the moment we left the party yesterday. My husband was bullied. This matter absolutely cannot be glossed over. I held her, hearing this, emotions surging. Sienna, it's so good to have you. Victoria returned to the Vance villa in a daze. Caleb was sitting in the living room waiting for her. He wore white loungewear, his eyes red, looking like he was still sad about the party. Seeing Victoria return, he immediately stood up to welcome her, his tone urgent and aggrieved. Vicky, you're back? Did bro? Is he willing to apologize to me? Victoria didn't look at him. She walked straight to the sofa and sat down, burying her hands in her hair, her face terrifyingly pale. The evidence Sienna throughout played on loop in her mind. Caleb's face in the surveillance footage contrasted hugely with his usual gentle appearance, making her feel waves of nausea. Vicky, Caleb sensed something wrong. He sat carefully beside her, reaching out to touch her arm, but she dodged violently. Victoria looked up, staring at him with a complex gaze. The man in front of her still had that pitiful, innocent face, but she couldn't imagine that under that fragile expression lay a heart full of lies. She didn't dare think closely. If the photo swap was directed by Caleb, what about the previous incidents? The guess made Victoria almost unable to breathe. Vicky, what's wrong? Caleb panicked under her gaze, his eyes shifting. Is it that Julian refuses to apologize? It's okay, I can endure it. As long as you... Enough! Victoria interrupted him, her voice hoarse. Let's talk about this later. I'm tired. She stood up, not looking at Caleb again, and walked straight upstairs. Caleb watched her back, brows knitting tight. Victoria's reaction was too strange, completely different from what he expected. She went to see Julian, but not only did she not mention the apology, she was so cold to him. Did Julian say something? Or did Sienna do something? An ominous premonition spread in Caleb's heart. He clenched his fists tight, a trace of viciousness flashing in his eyes. No matter what Julian and Sienna did, he couldn't lose Victoria. He couldn't lose the chance to be the Sterling's son-in-law. After returning to her room, Victoria didn't sleep all night. Sitting by the window watching the moonlight, the events since Julian's return replayed in her mind. When Julian said he was married with a child, Caleb was the first to say he was lying, making her certain Julian was lying. The light stand injury, Caleb mentioned the wedding first, making her feel Julian wanted to stop the photo shoot. The auction incident, Caleb said Julian snatched his gift. One thing after another, all seemed to have Caleb's deliberate guidance, making her increasingly certain Julian returned to crash the wedding. Sienna's words still hovered in her ears. Victoria, calling you a dog is an insult to dogs. Dogs are smarter than you, but you've been played like a fiddle by Caleb Vance. She really had been played. When dawn broke, Victoria made a decision. She called her assistant. Check everything that happened since Julian returned. No, not just since his return. Check everything that happened to Julian since he was 13. After the other end acknowledged, Victoria hung up. Not long after, the assistant sent over the compiled documents. Victoria took a deep breath, fingers trembling as she clicked open. First came the surveillance of the photo shoot. It clearly showed Caleb kicking the light stand, then pretending to be pitiful to frame Julian. Then the auction incident. It was clearly Julian kneeling in embarrassment begging Caleb to sell the pendant, and Caleb deliberately letting go to smash it, then pretending to be fragile when she appeared. One incident after another, all Caleb's setups. And she, believing Caleb without a thought, punished Julian time and again. She suddenly remembered the day she suppressed Julian's police report. Julian told her word for word, "I have never regretted leaving you." She hurt him so deeply. How could he regret it? Victoria felt like her heart was being gripped. Her breathing became rapid. After adjusting her emotions, she opened the file on events since Julian turned 13. Seeing the contents, her eyes widened abruptly. The document clearly stated how Caleb and his mother targeted Julian after moving into the Vance house. They stole his room, sold his mother's belongings, and framed him to get Richard to kick him out to the Bronx. And that engagement with the Cole family. It wasn't, as Caleb said, that Julian forced the unwanted engagement on him. It was clearly Richard, favoring Caleb and seeing the Cole family's success, forcing Julian to give it up. From start to finish, Julian was the unloved, pitiful one. No wonder his mental illness was so severe back then. No wonder when she said, "Julian, I will love you," he was moved enough to say, "Victoria, I think I will only love you in this life." So that was it. Victoria felt her heart full of bitterness and some indescribable emotions at work. Before she could sort out these emotions, her assistant messaged again, "Miss, the photo swap incident was maliciously posted online. Everyone is cursing Julian. Do we need PR? Victoria hesitative." Effective PR would mean revealing the truth, which would push Caleb into the vortex of public opinion. Even though he did many wrongs, he was the person she liked for years. Wait and see. When new gossip appears, no one will pay attention to this. Finally, she heard herself order the assistant. Hanging up, Victoria looked at the documents again, her emotions in chaos. She didn't know what she was thinking. Continue the engagement with Caleb or cancel it. She couldn't think clearly, so she decided not to think and went downstairs to eat. But passing Caleb's room, she heard him talking on the phone inside. "Caleb, did you orchestrate the cyberbullying of Julian? Didn't they say Julian already married Sienna? He didn't come back to crash the wedding. He's no threat to you. Why target him?" Caleb replied coldly, "Blame Julian. I don't know what he told Vicky, but since she came back yesterday, she's been ignoring me. I'm just giving him a little revenge now. I can't be the Cole's son-in-law anymore. If I can't be the Sterling's son-in-law because of him, it won't be just cyberbullying." Victoria stood outside the door, her heart sinking to the bottom. Caleb always spoke gently to her. This was the first time she heard such a vicious tone. Moreover, his words meant becoming the Sterling's son-in-law was just his backup option. She always thought Caleb framed Julian because he loved her. Unexpectedly, he only loved the status of the Sterling's son-in-law. He was never the gentle, kind person she thought. He was vain and utterly vile. Caleb's call hadn't ended, but Victoria couldn't listen anymore. She kicked the door open. "Caleb Vance, you make me sick." Seeing Victoria outside, Caleb's face instantly lost all color. He froze for a moment before explaining with a trembling voice, "Vicky, listen to me. I was just angry Julian bullied me again and again. I got carried away finding people to cyberbully him. It's only because I care about you too much." He was still trying to act pitiful, eyes reddening quickly, tears about to fall just like countless times before. But Victoria didn't soften this time. She scoffed. "Care about me?" She threw the document from her phone in front of Caleb. Her voice was cold as ice. "Caleb, is your care framing Julian again and again, then acting kind and innocent until you successfully become the Sterling son-in-law? Caleb, I didn't know your acting was so good. I've been fooled by you for so many years. I always thought you were the bullied one. I thought you didn't want to be with me because of low self-esteem, because Julian forced the engagement on you. Turns out from the beginning, you were just a vain person." Caleb's tears froze in his eyes. Listening to Victoria, looking at the hard evidence, his face turned from pale to gray. Victoria knew everything and heard his call. Pretending was useless. He suddenly looked up, the pity in his eyes replaced by twisted jealousy. "Yes, I am that kind of person. So what?" His voice pitched up, carrying a reckless madness. "I'm only 6 months younger than Julian. Why was he the young master of the Vance family from childhood, able to be engaged to the Cole family, while I could only be a shameful, illegitimate son? I wasn't willing. What's wrong with fighting for myself? Victoria, don't look like I tricked you. You were the one who insisted on proving your sincerity to me. So you sought out Julian to date. When Julian returned, you were the one who didn't trust him, hurting him time and again. I was faking innocence, but you aren't truly innocent either. What's the use of being angry now? You whipped Julian, you demolished his mother's memorial, and he's long married to Sienna. Even if you regret it, it's too late. I don't regret it, Victoria blurted out, her tone carrying a subconscious rebuttal. But as soon as the words left her mouth, she froze. Why was she so eager to deny it? Caleb seemed to hear a huge joke. He laughed out loud, the sound sharp and piercing. Don't regret it? Victoria, dare you touch your conscience and say you really don't regret it? He walked up to Victoria, staring dead at her. From the day Julian returned, you weren't right. You deliberately made him watch us take photos, deliberately fought him for the jade at the auction, even deliberately made him attend the engagement. You think you were revenging his departure, but actually, you just wanted him to notice you. If you weren't so obvious, I wouldn't have targeted him. Every sentence was like a hammer, smashing onto Victoria's heart. She subconsciously wanted to refute, but couldn't say a word. Did she really not regret it? Was she really just revenging Julian, leaving without a word? If it was just revenge, she could have used other ways. Why use her marriage to provoke him? Why, when she mistakenly thought he was interrupting her wedding process, did she feel a hidden joy alongside the anger? If she didn't regret it, why did she refuse to believe Julian when he explained time and again he was married? Because she didn't want to believe it. She was certain Julian came back for her. She was just lying to herself. She remembered her 5 years in the convent. She told all her close friends she wasn't there for Julian, but to force her family to let her marry the illegitimate Caleb. But countless nights, what she dreamed of was never Caleb, but Julian running in the snow to buy her pastries. Julian hugging her saying, I'll only love you in this life. She didn't dare admit that in the years she spent with Julian, she had long fallen for that 300-pound man. Nor did she dare admit she used Can't Marry Caleb as a cover, pretending to self-destruct to marry Julian. Because of love, she was angry at Julian's departure. Because he returned, she wanted revenge. She was just deceiving herself. Caleb saw her distracted state and knew he hit the mark. His eyes were full of mockery. Victoria snapped back, suppressing the emotions churning in her heart. She looked at Caleb, her tone devoid of ripples. Our engagement is canceled. Without waiting for Caleb's reaction, she turned and walked out. Reaching the balcony, she called her assistant, voice clear and decisive. Immediately issue a statement. Clarify the photo swap at the party. Publish all the evidence. Clear Julian's name. The assistant paused, then replied quickly. Miss, no need. The Cole Group issued a statement early this morning. They released all the evidence and contacted the police. Victoria froze in place. The news of Victoria and Caleb canceling their engagement came from Gordon on the phone. I was sitting on the living room rug helping Lily with a puzzle. Sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making me drowsy. Gordon's voice was chipper. Julian, did you hear? Victoria actually broke off the engagement with Caleb. It's going crazy in the circle. They say the Sterlings issued a statement overnight, leaving no room for reconciliation. My hand holding a puzzle piece paused. I was indeed surprised. In my memory, Victoria's defense of Caleb was near paranoid. Just recently on Caleb's post, she replied, my husband will only be you. She liked Caleb for so many years, living a convent for 5 years to marry him. Surely she wouldn't cancel the engagement just because she found out Caleb framed me? Hanging up, I hadn't recovered from the surprise when I saw Sienna walk out of the kitchen with a fruit platter. She placed cut strawberries in front of Lily and handed me a piece of mango, her fingertips brushing my wrist, cool to the touch. What are you thinking about? She saw I was distracted and sat beside me, arm naturally resting on mine. I took a bite of mango and repeated Gordon's words. Victoria and Caleb canceled the engagement. Victoria liked Caleb so much. How could she suddenly cancel it? Sienna didn't answer, just looked up at me. Her gaze was deep, sweeping from my brow to my lips. It made me nervous. I leaned back. Why look at me like that? She suddenly reached out, thumb gently rubbing my cheek. Her movement was incredibly gentle, but her tone carried a serious possessiveness. Nothing. Just think you're too good. I paused, not understanding. The next second, I heard her say, good enough that I want to lock you up so no one else can see. My heart skipped a beat. I found it funny and patted her hand. Lock me up how? Chain me in the house. Sienna didn't answer, just kissed my forehead. That afternoon, Sienna took me to City Hall. Not until the clerk handed over the ink pad did I realize. This is what you meant by locking me up? Sienna raised an eyebrow. What did you think? Hubby, it's a society of laws. The best way to lock you up is to use the legality of marriage to lower the possibility of you committing bigamy. Whether abroad or domestic, you can only be my, Sienna Cole's, husband. Her tone was light, but carried undeniable firmness. I looked down at the marriage license, the gold letters shining in the sun. My heart swelled with warmth. After getting the license, Sienna received a work call. She was busy these days. I sensed it involved the Vance and Sterling families. Sienna dropped me at home and fixed my collar. Wait for me. Tonight, I'll take you and Lily to that private kitchen you like. I nodded, watching her car drive away before turning to walk into the yard. 2 steps in, I saw a familiar figure standing under the peach tree. Victoria wore a navy trench coat, the wind fluttering the hem. She was more haggard than at the door last time. The red in her eyes was clearly visible. She looked drained of strength. Even standing seemed to struggle. Hearing footsteps, she turned. Her gaze landed on me, carrying complex emotions. Julian, she spoke, voice terribly hoarse. Caleb and I canceled the engagement. Heard about it. My tone was flat. I couldn't help wondering, was there a need to notify me specifically? Victoria seemed to sense my confusion and spoke quickly. Julian, I'm sorry. Her voice carried an obvious tremor. I misunderstood you before. I helped Caleb bully you, demolished Annie's memorial, whipped you. I know I was wrong. Terribly wrong. Not until I found that evidence and heard Caleb's words did I understand I was deceiving myself. I thought I liked Caleb, but actually from a long time ago, I liked you. Those 5 years in the convent, I thought I was waiting for my family to agree to me marrying Caleb. But at night, all I dreamed of was you running in the snow to buy me pastries. You hugging me saying I'll only love you in this life. I deliberately snatched the jade, deliberately made you watch the photo shoot, thinking I was revenging your departure. Actually, I just wanted you to look at me. Her eyes reddened, tone full of regret. Julian, I know it's too late to say this now, but I still want to tell you. I like you. I listened quietly, feeling no ripple in my heart. The like she perceived came too late and was too cheap. Indeed, it is late. I looked at her, tone calm. I am married with a child. These words mean nothing to me. Victoria's face turned instantly pale. She stepped forward as if to grab something, but didn't dare touch me. If I realized my heart 5 years ago, would the person marrying you now be me? I shook my head, looking straight at her, speaking word by word. No. She froze, eyes full of confusion. You didn't date me back then, out of sincerity. Even if you married me, carrying regret for Caleb, our marriage wouldn't be happy. I explained flatly. Victoria looked up in disbelief, lips moving, unable to speak. She never thought I knew the truth of back then. The thoughts she thought would never be exposed, the excuses she used to fool herself. I knew them all along. Julian, her eyes wet instantly. I am sorry. I'm really sorry. Knowing Victoria this long, this was the first time I saw her cry. I didn't understand what she was crying for, but I knew the current Julian didn't need her tears. The Julian of 5 years ago didn't need them either. Don't disturb me again. I withdrew my gaze calmly. Between us, it ended long ago. Not looking at Victoria again, I turned back to the villa. Lily was taken to the amusement park by the nanny. The house was quiet. Just me. I sat on the sofa, thinking of 5 years ago for the first time in a long while. When I first went abroad, I dreamed of Victoria every night. Dreamed of her looking at me with mockery. Julian, fat like this, you aren't worth loving. The one I love has always been Caleb. Then I would wake up, sleepless all night. I would think of my mother jumping into the sea without hesitation after the betrayal. Think of my father marrying his mistress and having a new life. Think of how I wasn't loved by anyone. My mental illness got worse, but I gave up and refused medication. I thought, no one loves me anyway. Might as well end it like this. I went to the Golden Gate Bridge, wanted to jump, thinking I could return a mom's embrace. But I didn't die. Sienna had people pull me back from the edge. I knew Sienna. I knew I once had an engagement with her, but knew we weren't actually familiar. I asked why she saved me. Sienna didn't answer, just stared at me for a long time, eyes holding emotions I couldn't read. Just when I thought she wouldn't answer, she spoke. Not answering my question, but asking, "Do you want some peach cobbler?" My mother was best at making peach cobbler when she was alive. After she left, I never had it again. I hesitated but nodded. Then I ate the cobbler Sienna made personally. It tasted just like Mom's. I ate crying. Sienna wiped my tears and told me, "As long as you obediently accept therapy, there will be more cobbler." I looked at Sienna puzzled, not knowing what she wanted, but finally I nodded. Restarting therapy was hard. I felt like I was being shattered and put back together. It was painful enough to make me want to quit countless times. Every time, Sienna would hug me and soothe. It'll be better soon. I once asked Sienna why she was so good to me. Sienna fixed my hair and told me gently, I'm the marriage partner your mom chose for you. Just consider it me loving you on her behalf. Hearing her mention marriage, I lowered my eyes in silence, afraid to ask about her engagement with Caleb. Days passed. My condition stabilized. My weight returned to normal. When Sienna came to pick me up, she was visibly happy. She threw a celebration party for me. It was the first time since Mom died that someone celebrated a small change in me. That night, I drank a lot. Falling into Sienna's arms, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but also seemed to know. After the night passed, I told Sienna she didn't need to take responsibility for me. I indeed don't need to take responsibility. Sienna stared straight at me. Because the one who should take responsibility is you. Julian, don't escape. Marry me. I finally had the courage to ask about the engagement with Caleb. She laughed. The day I knew the engagement was swapped, I canceled it. After all, I didn't want to marry a Vance son. Just you. Sienna told me we actually met when we were little. That year her grandfather died. At the funeral, adults chatted and laughed, as if attending a business mixer, not a funeral. She was angry and sad for her grandfather. No one seemed to be there to mourn. They all had agendas. Just when she had nowhere to vent her grief, she heard crying. Following the sound, she saw me cry like a mess. She asked why I was crying. I said, because I think Grandpa Cole will be scared lying in that big black box alone. From that day, she decided on me. I came late. Let you suffer so much. Sienna looked apologetic. After your mom died, my family thought the Vance ethics were questionable and wanted to cancel the engagement. I was too young. Making a fuss only got the result that the engagement could be kept, but I had to study abroad. I wanted to take you away when I had the power. I didn't expect to wait until the news of the engagement swap. I canceled it and ran to San Francisco to find you. Thankfully, this time I wasn't late. I cried and hugged Sienna. After that night, Sienna and I got married quickly. My condition stabilized, off meds for 6 months. Sienna got pregnant with Lily. We became a family of 3. Remembering this, I stood up and walked to the second floor. Lily told me on the first day there was a room layout different from our San Francisco home. When I pushed open the door, sunlight spilled in, falling on the wall. It was covered in photos and sketches of me, one after another, as if peeking into Sienna's heart all these years. What made my heart tremble most was a black notebook. It was the recipe book Mom left behind. Inside were many loose pages with Sienna's handwriting. The cobbler taste isn't quite right, asked the housekeeper. Turns out it's the oven temp. Make cobbler again. Housekeeper guided me. She saw me learning so seriously and asked if I wanted to marry Julian that much. I didn't say yes because I feel one doesn't describe my mood. I planted a peach tree in the yard. So if Julian wants cobbler later, I can make it for him immediately. Finally got the cobbler right. But the housekeeper is gone too. It's okay. From now on, I'll love Julian in her place. Flipping page by page, the handwriting went from childish to steady. Every stroke wrote of her care. Outside the window, the peach tree swayed. I looked out and saw the tree in the yard breezing in the wind. That tree was planted by Sienna when the Vance Cole engagement was first made. From very early on, she was preparing for me to be her husband. Noise came from downstairs. I went down and saw Sienna was back. I hugged Sienna, voice hoarse. Sienna, you really love me. Victoria seemed not to hear my last, don't disturb me. She started visiting frequently. At first, I was willing to say a few words to rush her off. Later, I just lock her out, ignoring her. Victoria continued rain or shine. But soon, she stopped coming. Then I heard news in the circle. Victoria was maliciously kidnapped, whipped 99 times, and thrown in an old warehouse for a week. When found, the wounds on her back were festering. She went to the police, but the case was suppressed. No one took it. Victoria was furious, knowing who did it, but suffering from lack of evidence. She had to swallow the bitter pill. Not alone in misfortune was her ex-fiancé, Caleb. Heard Caleb was window shopping when a store window shattered unexpectedly, smashing directly onto his head. He was still in a coma in the hospital. I guessed immediately it was Sienna's handiwork. When she got off work, I asked amusedly, "Didn't you say it's a society of laws? Why the retaliation?" Sienna lay in my arms. Legal means must be used, but the injuries you suffered, they must suffer once too. I soon witnessed Sienna's legal means. The Vance Group and Sterling Group were exposed for commercial crimes and tax evasion. Dozens of subsidiaries were seized or closed, nearing bankruptcy. When my father called me, he sounded much older. "Julian, is this how you treat your dad?" I didn't speak. Sienna took the phone, tone cold. Richard Vance, calling you dad is flattering you. Do you deserve to be Julian's dad? Want to stop on Vance Group? Simple. I want Caleb to kneel online and apologize to Julian. What he did back then, he pays the price for now. My father wanted to say more, but Sienna hung up. Perhaps because the elder didn't want to lose face being held hostage by a junior, or Caleb refused to kneel, there was no news of an apology for days. Sienna wasn't in a rush. She just released more evidence. Vance's assets evaporated too fast. Fast enough that my father finally couldn't take it and called Sienna. Fine, I'll make Caleb apologize. Remember your words. Soon, Caleb's live stream apology trended. In the video, Caleb's head was wrapped in gauze. He knelt pale-faced, reciting how he bullied and framed me over the years, apologizing sentence by sentence, begging my forgiveness. People in the circle sighed upon seeing the trend. Some ran to comfort me. I knew they just wanted to suck up to Sienna, so I ignored them all. Sienna stopped the attacks on the Vance family, but the evidence she released was enough to critically wound them. The Vance Group was a traditional enterprise. Once a leader hogging resources, now, with resources carved up, it would be hard to regain glory. As for the Sterlings, Victoria's father called to beg for mercy. Sienna just said coldly, Victoria destroyed my mother-in-law's grave. Either your Sterling family destroys an elder's grave too, or don't keep the Sterling Foundation. Mr. Sterling couldn't choose. The other branches of the Sterling family chose first. They kicked Victoria's family out, severing ties. Because of this, Victoria became a thorn in her father's eye. Mr. Sterling simply stopped coming home. He soon announced his illegitimate son, deciding to leave all inheritance to him. When I heard the news, I just found it funny. When Victoria defended Caleb, did she ever think that one day she would also be stripped of everything by an illegitimate son? After handling domestic affairs, our family of 3 returned to San Francisco. Sunlight streamed through the airplane window onto us. Looking at the blue sky above the clouds, I knew from now on, only good weather remained. Story complete.